So welcome again, everyone. We're so excited that you're here, and we're so excited to share more with you about living Laudato Si, and especially about Mercy's vision and role in this movement. So you likely know by now, you've heard about the Laudato Si Action Platform. It's a 7-year initiative from the Vatican. It invites all kinds of different collaboration between international Catholic organizations, parishes, religious communities, and even individuals to collaborate from grassroots levels to global coalitions. And the idea is to respond to the environmental crisis that's fully around us. That's the point. So Pope Francis talks about in Laudato Si that it's rooted in the strengths and the realities of communities around the world, empowering all to take decisive action here and now as we journey towards a better future together. So the Sisters of Mercy of the Americas, the Institute, is among more than 400 religious congregations around the world that have made the commitment and enrolled in the Laudato Si Action Platform. There are 7 goals that are part of this platform, part of this commitment that we've made. You're going to hear a little bit about some of those this afternoon, but I'll quickly tell you that they are the response to the cry of the earth, the response to the cry of the poor, ecological economics, sustainable lifestyles, ecological education, ecological spirituality, and community resilience and empowerment. There is no quiz. We will send you a bunch of resources. You don't need to remember those for now. But this afternoon, you're going to hear from a variety of Mercy leaders on the many ways that the Sisters of Mercy and all of our many ministries are already deeply, deeply involved in this work of environmental justice and care of our common home. You'll also have the opportunity to reflect a little bit on your own and our own individual responses. And we hope we can answer lingering questions, provide resources, and expand on what Mercy can uniquely offer to this project, as well as highlight some of our incredible ministries. I just want to acknowledge, again, the incredible work of Mike in the background on this tech stuff, of Marianne in the lead role as our coordinator, and of the ILT in particular for their support of this continued project. And so at this time, our first speaker is Sister Rosita Sigismund. She is going to take the incredibly important work of grounding us in mercy, of providing the foundation for why this is so important. And again, what does mercy uniquely have to offer? For 24 years, she shared her life with the indigenous peoples in Argentina. And among her many ministries, she teaches anthropology in the School of Missiology of the Diocese of Formosa. She is a lawyer by profession, as well as having studied theology at the Catholic University of Cuyo, Argentina. She's a participant in the Laudato Si movement and caretakers of the common home, and therefore she's an ideal expert to lay the foundation for our mercy work in this initiative. So Sister Rosita, the floor is yours.
Muchas gracias. Buenas tardes.
Thank you so much and good afternoon. Appreciate your participation, your invitation to be able to share my experiences. We will be sharing the importance of these calls to participate in this great movement of Laudato Si and the platform. And in these few moments, I will share some experiences and some opportunities to help us relate our spirituality with our critical concerns and the objectives of Laudato Si.
Nos volvemos a contextualizar y obviamente que los asuntos.
We want to contextualize this, and obviously the critical concerns come from the Sisters of Mercy, and they are intimately tied to the Laudato Si goals. Here I have tried to put them together side by side, and you can see how the Laudato Si goals correspond in so many ways. And it's a way of responding to the call of the Holy Spirit that we have heard from so long. It's care for our common home and an integrated approach. The critical concerns were agreed upon before the 7 goals of Laudato Si, but there is a huge connection between both of these sets of concerns and goals. Laudato Si, as Angela was saying, there's more than 400 congregations have joined this movement, invited by Pope Francis, and all of us commit to responding to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor, to adopt different ways of making these goals real, to have sustainable lives, work on ecological economy, ecological education, and to work on resilience and empowerment of communities. All of these things are new in a way, but they're also very old. The idea of integrating the cry of the earth with the cry of the poor, giving us an integrated vision of how to care for the earth. So being part of, since the Sisters of Mercy are part of this movement, we have a great opportunity to bring our experiences towards transformation, to have greater integrity between what we say and what we do, between our word and deed. And we are backed up by so many statements and intentions that we have had throughout time. Our participation as Sisters of Mercy commits us and will continue committing us in programs and policies that are already in progress. And in this program, we'll share different testimonies. There's diverse initiatives from macro kinds of things to very micro grassroots things. We're talking about theological reflection on extractivism that we have been sharing on the platforms from last year till now. We have already, we've also committed to rethinking our lifestyles to do so in such way that we can be in coherence with the survival of the planet. I'd like to begin this presentation by talking a little bit about the context of my contribution. I think all contributions have their context. I live with my sisters in community at the end of the world, as Pope Francis has said. It's in the Latin American continent, in the country of Argentina. And in Argentina, in a particular province, which is called Florinda, and a city called Clorinda. So from this map, from this context, is where the experience comes from that I'm going to be sharing. It's important for you to see the sisters that are involved in this movement. I also want to talk about my cultural Christian context and the social context of my ministry. As Angela said, I share my life and have done so for many years with indigenous peoples of the country, in the northern area of the country especially. So the contribution that I make from the wealth of sharing with indigenous peoples in Argentina.
Thank you, Sister Rosita. Okay,
so sorry, it was cut off.
You're good, just making sure.
So being part of this movement of Laudato Si is part of what we are doing. For us in Latin America, this concept of integrated ecology is very important. And it was something that was offered by Pope Francis and was contextualized in the continent with the Synod of the Amazon, where the expressions beloved Amazon and the Ecclesial Assembly were born. Because from our continent, we believe we can illuminate what's happening globally. So from our experiences, we have discovered the importance of biodiversity, the importance of the biodiversity on our planet. Not only do we have climate crises, We also have a crisis of the destruction of biodiversity, which is also a representation of our interconnection. All of this is related. People, human beings, vegetation, animal, we are a single being. And as Pope Francis has said, everything is connected. These are the 7 goals of Laudato Si that have already been presented in the video. And I want to share how they have been expressed in our reality in the Southern Cone in Argentina, in our community. Both the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor are we're looking at ways of responding to the concrete needs of the people. We have water, rain barrels and water container systems that are different than the ones that people have had to use all along. It's not potable water, but it's a contribution to have larger cisterns that function better. So this is one way of responding to the cry of our people during the climate crisis. I say we are not all on the same boat. Some of us are on a cruise ship, some of us are on yachts, some of us are on rafts, and some of us are swimming. So providing water cisterns in a time of pandemic has been a significant thing. So each image says something about this. It says about why we as Sisters of Mercy want to keep working towards these goals, because all of these goals have to do with our own critical concerns as well, and a way of expressing God's love for God's people. We have also been working on putting solar panels on various school buildings, helping to provide clean energy. This week in Argentina, we are celebrating the Week of Indigenous Peoples, and our slogan is Biodiversity and Indigenous Peoples, because we're talking about their cosmovision and their way of relating to the planet, because that allows us to have a fuller life, and it allows a fuller life for all society to relate to the earth in the way they do. So my contribution is especially contextualized in the experience, as I said, of sharing life with Indigenous peoples, because they really have an ecological spirituality and a connection with the creation, which is very important. Another way in which we as sisters are looking at the Laudato Si goals and the critical concerns is to be present in the different networks that are advocating locally, nationally, and at the level of the continent on legislative policies and also in the area of rights. We are members of a big movement which is called Church and Mining. And this is a space where we reaffirm the importance of ethical investments and divestment from everything that has to do with fossil fuels and fuels that contaminate our planet. Why should sisters be there? Because it responds intimately to our call to care for our common home, especially care for water and care and defense of the earth. So this is, you can see in each presentation, you can see the symbols of the goals that we think our actions relate to. When we talk about the defense of land, we're talking about helping people in the community to empower themselves. And one of the goals is precisely to defend indigenous territories because they have so much to do with the identity of our populations. In our communities, in remote indigenous areas, everything that we do in community organization, in defending their rights from the violations of the companies and the governments, all of this has to do with empowering communities, empowering women, empowering young people. And it has a strong component of strengthening participation and work of defense. In this case, defending territories, which is also defending biodiversity that helps all of us. The cry of the poor, saying that it's important for our rights to be respected. These are cries that we as Sisters of Mercy have heard and are accompanying in various areas. Here is a sign that says, no to logging, no to mining. There are extractive industries that we are convinced after seeing what's happening, there are extractive industries that should end. We have been participating actively in various lobbying efforts as well to promote laws. In our continent, there's the Escazú agreement, where it was very important for the country to ratify this accord. So there was a huge campaign. We were part of that movement. We participated in various conferences and international congresses to be able to advocate to make sure that this convention would be ratified by the Argentinian state, and we were successful. We are networks, and so we're working with a lot of other groups when we do this. I want to make sure you understand that. And also, I want to talk about some actions that are small but important, small but big actions. And the idea that what we do locally has repercussions globally. These small actions are taking place at the doors of our house. This is one where we see Sister Estela, who is taking care of the garden. And these have to do with sustainable economies, where we try to live what we say by taking these small steps. This Sister Cristina in Buenos Aires, and she's sharing her produce with neighbors. These are very small examples, but they help us, just like national advocacy does and like continent-wide advocacy does. Everything goes hand in hand. Also, you can see how some of our girls and boys in some formal educational settings and some informal settings as well are being introduced to the idea of ecological awareness. This awareness has all of these objectives translated into small but very important actions. We believe that at this time, the Sisters of Mercy, along with many other groups and networks, are able to be in solidarity with others through the Sisters of Mercy. And this sense of solidarity, according to Pope Francis, is to struggle against structural causes of poverty, inequality, the lack of work, the lack of land and shelter, and the negation of labor and human rights. We need to confront these effects of the capitalist empire that leaves so many people out, and that is our primary call. This integrated understanding of how to care for the earth is a way of making sure that the cry of the earth is inseparable from the cry of the poor. And that's our greatest concern and call.
lo expresa el Papa Francisco, ¿no? Desarrollar una amorosa, podríamos decir, una misericordiosa y tierna conciencia de que en esta casa común estamos compartiendo en íntima interrelación con todos y todas y con todo lo creado. Y lo que puede hacerse en este confín del mundo, como es la Argentina, el último país de América Latina, repercute en toda nuestra comunidad, asimismo como lo que se puede
In all of the community of the world, it is a great resource to help us feel connected and committed to care for our common home.
Thank you so much, Sister Rosita.
Muchas gracias.
That connection between the critical concerns and the idea that obviously living Laudato Si is not only about the critical concern of Earth, but it extends across all of them is so crucial. And thank you for sharing so many great examples from the very, very local to all the way up to the global. We obviously all believe that there is something unique in the Mercy charism and the Mercy mission to contribute here. And thank you so much for that. So with that background, we'd like to go ahead and move to two more examples of mercy in action as related to the Laudato Si goals. I'm going to introduce our two speakers and tell you a little bit about them that you likely already know and adore about what they do, and then they'll share with you their own presentations. So first up, we have Sister Kathy Thornton, who is the Executive Director of Mercy Focus on Haiti. Kathy joined the Sisters of Mercy in Cedar Rapids, Iowa in 1961, and she's participated in a number of ministries over the years, including teaching, retreats, administration, social justice, and community leadership. She joined Mercy Focus on Haiti in 2015, and Kathy describes their main work and ministry as creating conditions for people to thrive in. So thank you, Kathy, for being here. And then Sister Leslie Porreca has been a Sister of Mercy for 31 years. She's a clinical social worker in private practice by profession. And recently, she's also been able to mingle her passion for care of the earth with her current ministry at Redeemer Valley Farm in Pennsylvania. She currently lives in a tiny house that I think you'll get to hear more about, and that enables her to witness to her desire to live a more sustainable, spiritually grounded lifestyle. So Sister Kathy, Sister Leslie, welcome, and thank you all for being here to share.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Rosita, for all that you summarized so well. It was a very good background for us. So it's, and I thank you for the invitation to talk about Mercy Focus on Haiti and our connection with Laudato Si. That first slide gives you a little clue of the wonderful people that we work with. Mercy Focus on Haiti, as you know, is a ministry of the Sisters of Mercy. And it was birthed out of the cry of the poor that was heard by the delegates of the 2011 chapter meeting. At that time, a statement was made and about our concern and need to respond to the poor. And it's you can do the next slide, if you will. The statement says, we are led to liberate and redistribute our human and financial resources across the Institute and develop creative solutions to unmet needs, acting in solidarity with impoverished peoples. For the last 11 years, Mercy Focus on Haiti has been guided by that commitment. The statement and its subsequent actions are very connected to the spirit of Laudato Si, and in particular to the cry of the poor. Haiti, the country and the people on which we are focused, is a country filled with poverty and an abundance of ultra poverty. The United Nations describes ultra poverty as severe deprivation of basic human needs. Just think about it. Severe deprivation, okay? And with regard to food, with regard to safe drinking water, sanitation facilities, healthcare, shelter, education, and information about life. So all of those things characterize the poverty of the ultra poor. And we know that poverty marginalizes, it suffocates, it kills. Poverty is also standing on the outside looking in. Today, I just want to share a little bit with you about a program that Mercy Focus on Haiti sponsors that I believe encompasses the values of Laudato Si, and definitely it is an example of a response to the cry of the ultra poor. The name of the program is Chemin la vie mieux for those of you who speak French, and for the rest of us, it's translated Pathway to a Better Life. This program is sponsored by the education department of the Fonds Bank in Haiti. And in 18 months, a woman and her family are out of ultra poverty. Remember that definition, severe deprivation. In 18 months, they're out of that poverty, ultra poverty. And believe it, it's true. When we were first informed about the program, we were quite enthralled by it. It sounded a lot like what Catherine McCauley would say and do. So in the next few slides, let me tell you about the program. Remember, they're the ultra poor. They are women. And in this picture, you see the first cohort of 200 women that Mercy Focus on Haiti sponsored. And they're all dressed up in their finery for the day. And these are women who are ultra poor. And that's all who participate in the CLM program. These are women who have no access to healthcare. They're not able to feed their children every day. And one of the stories that we've experienced when we were in Haiti, a group were visiting one of the homes of the women, and the children were sitting around in a little circle with plates of rice on their to eat. And in that little circle, there was one child that had no plate. And one of the Focus on Haiti people asked, well, where's your plate? And the little boy said, it's not my turn to eat today. So, I mean, when you hear stories like that and see that reality, it's more than just not having a little bit of food every day, but the reality of not being able to eat even once a day. Often these women cannot send their kids to school, and they often have flimsy, rain-soaked homes that they're living in, and they have no means to take care of themselves. In the next slide, the gentleman that you see there is a caseworker for the woman on the left-hand side that you see. And again, it's a group visiting the CLM program, the Pathways program. During the 18 months of the program, the participants have been participating in large and small group learning sessions and meeting with their case manager once a week. Keep this idea of the case manager in mind, because the case manager supports each participant as she learns to run a small business, such as breeding goats. I think that's the next slide. okay, a small enterprise of goats, where breeding goats. See the strong, healthy goat with their offspring, and those they can be sold at market, generating a income for the women. And there's always a market for goat meat in Haiti, and so it's a popular process for learning about to run a small business and generate some income for yourself. This slide talks about healthcare for the family, and the women have never been to a doctor. Their children have never been to a doctor as well. And now some of you may know Marge Friedoff. She's the nurse there tending to the women. And Mercy Focus on Haiti provides medical assessment clinics for each of the cohorts. And then we also support and to provide the presence of a nurse to provide follow-up medical attention. Then on the other side of the picture, you see the happy group of women, very proud of themselves for they have just received the water filters and instructions on how to use them to purify water for cooking and drinking. The last slide here shows on the left-hand side, you see one of the homes of the participants. And in the program, each woman receives materials to repair or build a home. And you can see the lean-to effect and the roof of banana leaves. And you can imagine that in torrential rain, that doesn't stand a chance of surviving. But as I said, each woman receives materials to build or repair her home. And you see the house in the making on the right-hand side of that. So you can see that there's a lot going on in this 18 months. And each participant in the program develops life skills and also develops confidence that she knows that she can do something because she has experienced it. And the other interesting thing about this program is there's like a 97% graduation rate because it's quite successful, and women continue to work on the program. So just for a minute, recall if you can what you did for graduation from high school or from college. What were the requirements that you had to do that? You know, the courses you had to take and the activities you had to do, the papers you had to write, whatever. But listen to the requirements for graduation up from this 18-month program. They must feed their kids once a day, at least every day, that there would be no untreated malnutrition in their households. They live in a house with a good tin roof, have a water filter, have their own latrine, send all or most of their kids to school, which is, you know, a good way to get out of poverty, have at least 2 sources of income, and at graduation time, at least have $185 US worth of productive assets or savings, have a plan for the future, and have confidence to know that they can succeed. The cry of the poor is lessened, and dare I say, even disappears with this Pathway to a Better Life program. And for me, it seems like there are, oh, let's see, can you switch to the next slide? And I'll just show you what these are for the graduates. And they in that envelope is their certificate of graduation. And the scarves that are around their necks are have been given to them by Mercy Focus on Haiti. So each woman, and you can see they tie it, each one of them ties it differently, but they have great pride in having graduated. But and two major factors, I think, in make this program successful. One is the accompaniment by the case manager, someone who is walking together, providing encouragement, assisting as needed, challenging now and then, and supporting people, the women during the tough times. So for 18 months, each individual has the full attention of another person who wants her to succeed, wants her to develop skills for now and into the future, wants her to know who it would be she can rely on when she runs into obstacles, wants her to know herself as capable of doing many things. And she knows she can do things because all during that 18 months, she's done things that she's never done before. So it seems to me that the case manager is just critical to the success of this program. And what we're talking about, it seems to me, in our response to the poor is creating a relationship with them, in a personal relationship, in moving them forward. And the second thing that, you can switch to the next slide, please. The first was a click accompaniment. And the second is access to capital. And many of you know Amada Miller. And when I was working with her at Network, she always would say, what the poor need is access to capital. They need resources to make their dreams come true. And so part of this program teaches the women how to have a savings account with Fancose Bank. And for the first 6 months, they're given a small stipend, and they have to put half of it into savings, and half of it then they can use to buy food for the family and so on and so forth. But and then after they finish the program, the Pathway to a Better Life program, they can join into solidarity groups, which are groups of 5 women pooling their money and then sharing it with one another and using that money as they're needed. But then what they have then is they have access to capital and some experience in changing their lives and saving money and providing for their families. So accompaniment and access to capital are important in responding to the cries of the poor. Early on in the encyclical, Pope Francis makes an urgent appeal to dialogue among all people, to care for us, to care for people and the planet. He calls us to dialogue and keep talking about that. But it's not just talk, it's conversations that lead to transformation. And all of us are called to do that, to allow ourselves to be in conversation so that we may change and be converted into to new lifestyles, to new attitudes and values, and regarding the poor and the planet. New attitudes, new values, in new consciousness in our hearts and in our minds with regard to people and the planet. So I was thinking about this and about our experience of journeying as a religious community, the journey of oneness, we call it. And that maybe as we, in Mercy, participate in the Laudato Si action plan, perhaps we can consider it another journey of oneness. And this time, a oneness with all people and with the planet. So thank you for the time and attention to hearing about the pathways to a better life.
Thank you, Kathy, for sharing. I entitled this, "The Tender Mercy of Our God Has Given Us Earth to Care for Our Common Home." As a vowed member, I am rooted in mercy, grounded in grace. This is the motto I took at my profession, something that has been growing in me my whole life. What is mercy but an action, conversion of heart, a movement towards healing? Earth needs this now, this mercy taken towards sustainable living. As a community, we can be a witness to these behaviors that care about our common home, one person at a time, starting from where we are. One step taken matters. In my current ministry, next slide, please, I join with the Sisters of the Redeemer in their mission to care for Earth in this platform. And my role is as a creation caregiver at Redeemer Valley Farm. I have come to find out that there are many similarities with the Redeemer and Mercy charisms in this witness to caring for creation and being a healing presence in the world. Their desire to share the land they have for farming and animal grazing and solar farming is a gift to the local community. Next slide. Intending of mercy for Earth and others, we care for farm animals and crops. These actions are a sustaining thread sown in sustainable manner, which means growing healthy food and sharing the beauty of creation. Listening for God through relationship with the land and one another. All coming from a great love seated in my heart from a God who tends life. A sacred presence grounded in the mystery of God's unfolding grace. Participants in this ministry come not only to garden for food production, but also to have connection with others, seeking nourishment beyond the physical. Spending time in nature is a value we share through offering contemplative walks and conversations about earth care. This time for gazing the beauty of creation and meditation encourages kinship and kindness. We, Sister Anna and I, tend mercy through working with the community garden, seeding and growing the vegetables and flowers and herbs, caring for the animals, which right now consists of 15 goats, 5 sheep, a bunch of chickens, 2 ducks, 4 rabbits, 2 cats, and 1 livestock guardian dog named Breezy. And we are expecting goat kids in June. With the desire to live a more sustainable lifestyle, I sought funding to build a tiny house and try to live closer to the skin of the earth. Utilizing resources in moderation, eating a mostly plant-based diet, not using single-use plastic or paper, using only biodegradable products, supporting other local farmers, and practicing a lifestyle of simplicity, living mercy with earth, and practicing an attentiveness in sharing the beauty found in nature. This lifestyle is meant to be a witness to these values, as well as an educational tool in sharing its story. The name of the house is Hesed, Hebrew word with many meanings, especially mercy, but also loving kindness, because I thought the house name should mirror its intent to show loving kindness to the earth. As a tender of our tender earth, caring for all those who interact in this environment, people join the community garden not only to grow vegetables in their plot, but some come for healing, to find wholeness, to reground themselves and find community. Talk about tending mercy and healing earth. This work is about connection and relationship to one another and creatures. Opening eyes to see how individuals' actual actions can affect another's reality in this web of life. At the farm, we practice regenerative agriculture, also known as no-till gardening. We use compost to feed the soil and practice companion planting. We invite volunteers, young and wise, to come, whether you have a plot or not, to come and work with us on the farm and in other activities, like the children's school garden, where we teach local kids from a elementary school where their food comes from, a CSA membership, and we do weekly donations to the food pantry and a weekly farm market. We also make value-added products from the farm. Some examples are goat milk soap and goat cheese, dryer balls from the wool of the sheep, and other products from the farm, and teach canning and how to use the vegetables that we grow. There are plans for a barn and a micro dairy and an educational community gathering space where programs will be offered. Ecological education happens in many ways in the community garden, whether in a deeper dive workshop or in sharing with other gardeners lived experience. Members of the community garden are always eager to practice a more sustainable way of caring for the earth and each other. Everyone is welcome in our community, which is intercultural and a witness to mercy as it is poured out, ever flowing at Redeemer Valley Farm. As a representative of the community of mercy, I join with the mission of the Redeemer Sisters in caring for our common home. Though I am only one member of Mercy, I bring the support of many to this ministry. Really, it is a call of the future to join energies together for supporting life in the mission and sustainability and love. I wanted to close with this quote. This is just a picture of some of our critters. The cats, I mean, how can you not love just being with them? They invite such kindness. But I went in a Pendle Hill pamphlet And the quote is from Wilmer of Integrity, reminds us that integrity involves obedience to the light within. It is experienced when we allow our lives to become vehicles for God's action in the world by entering into a covenant with the divine order. We carry that covenant into all of our relationships, whether social, economic, political, or environmental. And this is what I really feel that God seeded in me in this call to care for Earth. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Rosita and to Kathy and to Leslie for sharing such incredible examples of Mercy's ministry and of individual commitments and just making those connections so clear to us between the critical concerns and the goals and the concrete work on the ground. So thank you so much. At this time, we're going to split off into breakout rooms so that you can reflect a little bit on what you've heard so far. You can share thoughts and questions. Just know that this is the beginning of a conversation. It is not the end. We're only going to have about 10 minutes. So please just start the conversation and let's see where we go. But we've got some questions for you to consider if they're helpful. How have you been inspired? We know you're all doing the work already. So much incredible ministry happening. So how have you been inspired to take further or deeper or broader action towards the goals, both personally and in your community and ministry? And then what might Mercy uniquely have to offer? We talked a little bit about that, but you're living it. So what might Mercy have that's unique? And then what obstacles, whether personally or more globally, do you face? As you come back in, please do share some thoughts from your groups in the chat box for all of us to chew on and to take with us. And I'm going to invite Sister Anya to give us some closing words before we tell you about very quick next steps.
Thanks very much, Angie, and good evening, good morning, everyone. Just lovely to be part of this, what I was said in my small group. It's like, I feel like we've come to the feast. And what a banquet we have of mercy. I really do have such a sense of, in today's conversation and our participation, of the animating force of mercy. And I think it was Leslie who said that we're really touching into the God who is alive. And there is a real quality of aliveness and a tenderness. I feel really grateful for how the interconnectedness between the cry of the earth and the cry of our persons made poor really was exemplified in the witness. Not only the call of mercy, but the response in mercy. And I think Kathy said it wonderfully that our journey of oneness is really about all people and all planet. And I think we all know that. I think that's probably what animates us in the beginning of our day and the end of our day. But I really do think that the power, was really an Easter story and bringing us into the hope. And I'm very grateful for the work of mercy. And I think we continue to be called and moved. And today's expression that really helped us see the connection between our critical concerns and the Laudato Si action platform, I think is a story that's going to continue to unfold. But most of all, I think the God of mercy, the God who is alive and full of hope for fullness of life, was really present through each person today and the stories that were shared. So really grateful, and I bring you greetings from Pat, Judith, and Anne-Marie, and are just delighted to see everybody on the screen participating.
Thank you so much, Sister Anya. And thank you, huge thank you again to the ILT, to the interpreters, to all of the participants. to everyone, we know that the work is happening out there. We know that the vineyard, you saw how the vineyard is flourishing. There's so much happening in the Mercy world, far beyond the Laudato Si action platform being an official call. So it's about naming that and then adding our power to all of the other congregations doing the same thing. We have further resources for you. We'll be sending those out with the recording, with trying to get some questions answered for you. So all of that will be coming. We do have some very concrete institute-wide ideas to give you for further action and that you can also pass along. And we just want to hear more from you. What are you doing? What's going on? Again, we know that you're the experts out there doing the work. So we have an incredible website that is specifically for Mercy's participation in the Laudato Si action platform. You can see it right there, sistersofmercy.org/Laudato Si. So it's easy enough to find. We also have a direct email address for these kinds of questions. You can email any of us on the Justice team, but this is a great way to have it go directly. And then maybe you've already seen the first in the blog series, but we have some incredible contributors who are going to be writing blog posts, again, making that connection between the critical concerns, the concrete work on the ground, and these Laudato Si goals from across the Mercy world. So thank you all so much for your time. Please be in touch, and we hope that we will hear more from you soon as we keep living Laudato Si.